Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Strixhaven First Impressions video. Today, I'm going to be looking at the commons for the set for the first time. I've seen like one or two of them from like previous season, but I haven't like really actively sought them out because I thought it'd be really fun to go over them for the first time. I haven't looked at the cards. I don't really know what the mechanics are, so I'm going to be looking at them for the first time today and doing that with all of you folks. It should be a lot of fun. And yeah, if you enjoy this sort of thing, remember to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, comment with your questions, thoughts, and feedback down below with what your first impressions of the cards are. I will definitely be doing more analytical stuff down the line after having looked at the cards, but I figure it's really nice to look at the cards for the first time together with all of you folks because it's just a cool like little base point to jump off from, and then we'll see how the thoughts develop as we learn more about the format together. So, first, I'm going to be going through only the commons because the commons are oftentimes the building blocks of draft, and there's still 110 commons in the set, so that's a lot of cards to look at, and yeah, we're going to be jumping on in. Yeah, if you want a more graded set review, you'll be able to find my Strixhaven card-by-card grade spreadsheet on the Patreon, so if you want to support my content and get access to that, check it out at the Patreon, patreon.com/NicolaiBolas. And there's also a lot of discussion on these cards in the NicolaiBolas Discord server, which is free to join for everybody. So, diving on in, the first card up is Environmental Sciences. I have to say, I'm not exactly sure what lesson means at the moment, but I guess we'll find out when we look later on. Definitely, from what I'm seeing in Twitch chat, it's like you can put them in the sideboard. You may reveal thank you, Magistorian. Exactly what we needed at the moment. Learn. You may reveal a lesson card you own from outside the game and put it into your hand or discard a card to draw a card. So you can like get these things from your sideboard, which is pretty cool. Nice. Thank you, chat. Awesome. So these are like little cards you can put in your sideboard to get a little bit of an extra effect. Or you can discard a card to draw a card. So interesting stuff. So we'll have to review these all as like cards you can get out of the sideboard, which is really nice. So Environmental Sciences, you can get a basic land and put it into your hand. So you can like essentially like draw a land, or instead of rummaging, which it can be nice if you need that extra resource, or it can help you fix your mana. So this card's probably going to be pretty decent because it is kind of a free roll. But again, it's not an inherently powerful card on its own. It's just probably better than rummaging. Expanded Anatomy, putting 2 counters at sorcery speed, gaining vigilance. These effects are probably going to be pretty minor. Exiling a non-land permanent and letting them draw a card. That's a pretty powerful effect to have access to. But again, it's not a super powerful card. I could see people main decking this card if they really need removal. This card's nice as well. It's just nice if you... I think the key thing with lessons, based on what I currently know, is that if you have a couple of them, it'll be better. So like you don't just want to have one Environmental Sciences, you'd rather have like one of each. But we'll have to see what the cards with Learn are. Okay, Introduction to Prophecy, scry 2, then draw a card. So this is probably better than rummaging, but it's very slow, so it's more of a late game thing. This is definitely not a card you'll ever play. Ageless Guardian, 2 mana, 1/4. Again, white getting a defensive 2-drop could be an indication here. A lot of the time white gets more aggressive 2-drops, but when it does have defensive ones, sometimes that means there's a blue-white control deck. I know there's like 5 schools in the set. I don't know exactly what color combinations they are. I guess I'll figure that out later, but I think there's a blue-green one or something like that. But if there's a white control deck like white-blue or something like that, white-black being controlling is definitely an option as well sometimes. So Ageless Guardian, definitely not a card you're really going to be wanting to play. Enemy pairs. I don't know exactly what that means. Aren't there multiple enemy pairs? I always get which ones are enemies and allies confused because they're all just colors in my head. And it's like, yeah. Yeah, okay, so this card's not that super great. Beaming Defense. Non-adjacent pairs, that doesn't help me out either. White, red, and white, black. Okay, so there's not blue, white, but there is white, black. Okay, I didn't think Boros was enemy pairs because white and red are kind of on the same team a lot of the time. Okay, red, white, blue, green, blue, red, black, white, and black, green. So it's like Boros, Simic, Izzet, Orzhov, and Golgari. Perfect. Excellent. I translated it and then Antonio translated it. So everyone will now know that these are the color pairs in the set. Pretty neat. No Idea Emperor. So Beaming Defense. Defiance. 2 mana. It gets +2/+2 and hexproof. That's pretty nice. Usually white combat tricks to give +2/+2 cost 1 mana and are generally like pretty nice performers. But costing an extra mana to gain hexproof gives you extra utility against removal. Costing the extra mana and not giving +3/+3 is a little bit tough. because that's oftentimes what you get for 2 mana. But hexproof can be okay. White red is focused on archaeology. That's cool, Condor. Yeah, this card's probably not great either. 2 mana for a combat trick is always a little bit borderline. Combat Professor. Flying. Always gotta love flying. 4 mana 2/3 flyer. So baseline, it's okay generally. Target creature control gets +1/+0 and gains vigilance. What? Combat Professor, you beast. That's incredible. It's a 4 mana 3/3 vigilance flyer that can also buff other things. I really like that card. Nice. Combat Professor. Bird Cleric. Let's go. I like this card a lot. One of the cool things is your flyer can often attack in uncontested, but this can also like buff up your 2/2s to like attack past their 3/3s and things like that, or force good trades. This card's really good, I think. And it also stacks really well in multiples. And giving vigilance can be really nice because it can then play offense and defense if you want to buff itself. That's wild. So you can go like Combat Professor into Combat Professor, and all of a sudden your 2/2 ground creature is a 4/2, and they just really can't block it. Combat Professor seems really good to me. There's a lot of criteria when I look at cards for the first time, and one of them is how good is this going to be when it is played against me? And there's going to be a lot of spots where I'm playing a more defensive deck. My opponent's playing just... Well, I'm trying to stall the game out as long as possible for whatever reason. Maybe I have a bomb rare and I have like a 3/3 holding off a couple of 2/2s, and all of a sudden they play a Combat Professor and they have a flyer in the air that I have to deal with, and also they attack just past my ground creature, and I don't really want to trade because then they'll just be buffing up their other creature. It can also buff up itself to be a 3/3 vigilance flyers. Yeah, Combat Professor seems excellent to me. Like, I'm going to try and do top comments at the end of this video after like looking at the cards. And having some context by looking at all of them. But this card strikes me as very good, even though it is 4 mana. So keep that in mind. 4 mana is pretty tough. You can't put too many of these in your deck, but I mean, Combat Professor strikes me as excellent. The fact that it can choose any creature is really nice. It's not that good on defense, but the fact that it gets vigilance still makes it a little bit better, because like a 2/3 doesn't block that well, but it can hold off some 2/2s and it can attack and block. So that's pretty cool. Defend the Campus. This was Lord Tupperware's preview card. He made a really funny video about it. Probably a marginal card because neither of the effects is really something you want to play. Eager First Year. So it's a 2 mana 2/2. Whenever you cast or copy an instant sorcery, it gets +1/+0. So 2 mana 2/2 that can gain like a little bit of a buff. Does Scryfall have all of the cards? I don't know. If it doesn't have all of the cards, we'll discover that together. But I like Scryfall because the card images are a little bit bigger than on the like official Magic spoilers. So that's why I'm using Scryfall. Scryfall's great. It has a lot of search stuff as well. And that way I can look at just the commons. So yeah. Eager First Year, probably a pretty decent 2-drop though. A lot of your aggro decks aren't running as many instants and sorceries. And the fact that this isn't +1/+1 means that it's still often going to trade in combat. So like, if they block your 2/2 with if you block their 2/2, if they block your 2/2 with their 2/2, they're still going to trade, which is pretty okay. Like, it's just reasonable. So this card's probably just basically a 2 mana 2/2. So that's not that good. Expel. Exile target tap creature at instant speed. There was an effect like this at instant speed in Core Set 2021, I believe. That was 2 mana, and it only destroyed it. Exiling can be relevant, but costing extra mana is huge. And the card in Core Set 2021 wasn't as good because white was more aggressive. But if white is more controlling, then Expel could be really nice. It's like a format, like by format thing. Awesome, Caleb. Swift Response was a card that was good in the right deck, but that deck didn't come together very much because white was so often about attacking. But Expel could have potential. So far, I'm most excited about this Professor. Guiding Voice. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and learn. You may reveal a lesson and put it in your hand, or discard a card to draw a card. So with your learn cards, you are generally going to want to have a lesson to go get, because then you have a card draw effect instead of a discard to draw a card. This isn't going to be worth it if you can't get a lesson, because putting a counter and then rummaging is just not worth a card. If you have... I mean, these are the only lessons, really. I mean, it's still really an expensive effect. I don't think it's very good because, like, these cards are pretty clunky. So you kind of have to view it as, like, a 3-mana version of something. So it's like, would you pay 3 mana to get a land, gain 2 life, and put a counter? That's basically the same as Scale the Peak... What's it called? It was Scale the Heights from Zendikar Rising, which wasn't a particularly good card. And that even let you double land drop. So generally, this card doesn't seem like it's going to be worth it because the first effect is so marginal. And the lessons aren't as good. If you do have a absurd lesson. Like, I'm not sure if there's any rare or uncommon lessons. It's still like interesting. I also think that like I just also don't like this card because like all of these cards, even if you wouldn't really want to play a split card that was 3 mana to get a land and put a counter, or 6 mana to have this card, or 4 mana to do this. You don't really want these lessons at that, with this tacked onto this like marginal effect. I don't think, because this effect just doesn't do anything. If there's some rare lessons or something like that, that could be really good though. Though a lot of the times, if there's a card that's really good, you might just want to put it in your main deck. I don't know. Pilgrim of the Ages. Enters battlefield. Search for planes. Ooh, card drawing white. Let's go. Getting it done. And you can return it from your graveyard to your hand. Let's go. That's real spicy. It is a 3 mana 2/1, which is kind of trash, but white getting to search at basic planes. I know it's gotten to do it before, but you gotta love it. You gotta love it. Nice. I mean, this could be a nice little card. I mean, 2/1 doesn't line up very well with a lot of formats, especially for 3 mana, so keep that in mind, and it's very slow. But I don't think it's a very good card, because 3 mana 2/1. I guess it's kind of like a Skittering Surveyor, except got some extra upside. I don't know. It's probably solid. It's nothing too special, but I'll probably end up playing these cards, because getting a land is nice. Especially if you have some learn cards, and then you learn so you can discard that extra planes later. Yeah, I know, Magistratorian. I was thinking that, but I didn't want to say that. Like, if you have a bunch of learn cards, you can get your lesson more often. Yeah, but it's draw like a garbage card. Like, you wouldn't put these cards in your main deck on their own. So, like, 1 mana to put a counter on a creature and draw a really mediocre card is not great. Like, drawing a card that's below the quality of something you'd put in your deck, it gets worse. Like, not all cards are created equal. But we'll see. Pillar Drop Rescuer. Enters return target creature with mana value. Ooh, mana value. We're getting that in there. Gotta love it. 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. It's a 5 mana 2/2 flyer. And it goes to your hand. 5 mana 2/2 flyer is not great. Returning a creature card can be nice. Not a huge fan of this card. The problem is it's too small to impact the board. Like, it doesn't block very well. It doesn't attack very well. Getting a thing back is nice, but it just seems too small for me for its cost to be great. Star Pupil enters with a counter on it. Nice, so it's a 1/1. When it dies, put it counters on target creature you control. So this is kind of like, there was a card like this in War of the Spark, I think, that let you proliferate when it died or something like that. I don't know. There's been cards like this before. Modular, that's what I'm thinking of, Magistratorian. It's like a Arcbound Worker or something, is the card I'm thinking of. But Star Pupil, 1 mana 1/1's generally not great, but if there's a counters deck, this card can get a lot better. So we'll have to see how the counters cards play out. Stonerise Spirit. Exile a card from your graveyard. Target creature gains flying until end of turn, but it's a 2 mana 1/2 flyer, which I don't like. Not great. Yeah, but it costs an extra mana, and it doesn't return anything you want, which is pretty narrow, Fletcher. Because a lot of the time, by the time you're in turn 5, the 3 mana card you're getting back is like a card that's not huge. Study Break. Tap up to 2 target creatures and learn. Now, this effect I think is better than the counter effect, and being instant speed is nice on this sort of thing. You can tap their creatures pre-combat. Martyr for the Cause. Yeah, that's the card that proliferates when they die. This card, I don't know. Again, the learn cards are definitely the sort of thing that I would tend to undervalue rather than overvalue to me, because like these effects aren't super powerful, but I could see like tapping their 2 creatures, getting this lesson, all of a sudden you're hitting them with a massive flyer. So far, the best white card to me looks to be this Combat Professor, even though it's a 4-drop. Oftentimes when you're looking at white decks, you can just check. There's almost always 2 common 2-drops. So you're like, okay, Ageless Guardian's 1. This card's pretty bad. Eager First Year. This card's pretty bad compared to like what a white 2-drop could be. Like compared to something like Gust Walker, because the +1/+0 is not super relevant a lot of the time. And then this card's pretty bad because it's a 2 mana 1/2 flyer, which is just not a good body, and it can't like buff its power ever. Being able to give other creatures flying can be nice, so you might play 1 copy sometimes, but yeah. I'd say pretty weak color overall. Without any other context, I'd say that Combat Professor is the best white common. Expel might be the second best white common. And then, honestly, it really falls off here. We'll have to see for the set, but I'll do a little bit of thing at the end on what top commons might be. But this card could be decent too. Study Break. I don't know. It feels tough to justify these sorts of cards when you have to have like some flexibility, and then I feel like casting these isn't going to be very satisfying. Maybe the Eager First Year's number 3 or Pilgrim of the Age of Pilgrim could be okay if the decks are more controlling. But I think Expel might even be number 2, which isn't a great sign. This card could be okay. But yeah, I think this card's definitely number 1 for me right now. Expel's probably number 2, even though white's probably not super aggressive. Maybe this is number 3 and then Pilgrim's number 2, but Pilgrim being number 2 is not a good sign for white. Yikes. Eager First Year is kind of a yikes. Star Pupil could be up there. Yeah, Frost Trickster did seem really strong. That's like the only card that I've seen in the set that common, because like I was like scrolling through and I was like, oh wait, spoilers are out? That's wild. And then I saw this card and I'm like, oh my goodness. But let's see. Maybe Rescuer is number 3. Rescuer, yeah. If Rescuer is number 3, it is probably better than like, I don't know. Maybe Star Pupil just gets up there. We'll have to see what the counter synergies are. But maybe Star Pupil actually gets up there because a deck just cares about counter so much. But I don't know. Pillar Drop Rescuer doesn't strike me as super good. It's a little bit clunky. You can't really stack up on these. There's cards where like you're like, wow, if I get 3 of these, my deck is going to be great. And I can't imagine a deck with 3 Pillar Drop Rescuers feels great to play. Can also trigger Magecraft. Yeah, the Magecraft cards in white didn't seem super potent. Let's look at this. Arcane Subtraction. -4, -0 until end of turn. Learn. I feel like Learn is worse than draw a card a lot of the time. Because you draw... Sure, there's some flexibility, but you draw a really bad card. Thank you so much, Jififla. I really appreciate that. Arcane Subtraction. You draw a land a lot too. Yeah, with this thing, but you have to pay 2 mana for it too. I guess being able to rummage is kind of nice too. So that's like a nice fallback plan. Yeah, it said, the person said 3 because they sent a heart. And so that's like the symbol is like the pointing bracket and 3. Yeah, this card's probably not great. Barak Befuddler. 2 mana, 2/1 flash. Frog Wizard. That's incredible. Target creature opponent controls get -1, -0 until end. This card's real nice. I think this card's great. Nice, because sometimes it's not going to be able to trade itself very often because it would have to be literally like a 1-power creature attacking. But this is pretty good. -1, -0 can do a lot of stuff. The class learned little that day. That's really funny. That's a great comment. This is a good card, I think. It's like a Zulaport Cutthroat, but it's attached to a better body. And 2 power is nice. It can like block creatures surprisingly. If your opponent ever attacks with 2 creatures, you can like flash this in, shrink one of them, block the other one. It's probably harder to get to work in practice than it is in my head at the moment. But Zulaport Duelist did some pretty good work. Not Zulaport Cutthroat. Zulaport Duelist from Zendikar Rising. And Brine Barrow Cutthroat wasn't as good in the most recent set, Call Time. But a 2 mana 2/1's like close to being playable. Giving it flash is kind of nice, but if there's other instants. And the -1, -0 is like a decent thing where like your 2/2 then doesn't trade with their 2/2, that sort of thing. I like it. Bury in Books. 2 less to cast. If it targets an attacking creature, put target creature into its owner's library second from the top. That's nice. Punishing attacking. Yeah, having 2 powers better. Yeah, exactly. Zulaport Duelist had 1 power, but being a rogue mattered and milling mattered. Bury in Books combined with Expel means that if your opponent is a blue-white deck and they hold up 3 mana, attacking them might not be worth it because you could maybe potentially burn their mana. So keep that in mind with Bury in Books. Putting a creature into its owner's library second from the top for 5 mana isn't bad, and then doing it for 3 mana is good. So I'd say this card's pretty reasonable. It's like the fact that it can't target anything makes it a little bit different from Totally Lost, which is a similar effect. But being able to cost being able to cost only 3 is pretty nice. Look at the top 2 cards, put any number in your graveyard and the rest back in any order, draw a card. So this is basically a don't tell me, chat. I'm not going to look at chat while I remember the name of the card. Deliberate from Zendikar Rising. Except you can put the card in the graveyard, but it's basically Scry 2. unless there's some graveyard synergy, and then draw a card. So not a huge fan of that. Frost Trickster is fantastic. It's a Frost Lynx, but it's flying, which is just great. 3 mana 2/2 flyers are already close to playable, and then tapping things down. This is like the sort of card that like it's kind of similar to the Combat Professor in that when your opponent plays multiples of these cards, it just feels really bad, and you always want to have as many of these as you can. Yeah, the set theme's pretty cool, I think, from what I'm seeing so far. The most important skill in a Mage Tower match is keeping one's cool. Oh, I see what you did there. Frost, cool, nice. Well, I mean, like, power creep, but also, I mean, there's a lot of cards that are like, from set to set, there'll be a better version or a worse version of things. So, that's just how it goes sometimes. And just tap it. It doesn't untap, so pretty good. These cards are a little bit better on offense than defense, mostly because it's easier to block. Like, this thing's not as good at blocking because it's only a 2/2. And tapping it down, taps it down for 2 blocker steps, but only 1 attacker steps. Pop quiz, draw a card, and learn. So this really spins your wheels. So you pay 3 mana to draw 2 cards. So it's like a divination. Or you draw a card and then discard a card to draw a card. No, this card's great. I didn't say it wasn't good. Pop quiz isn't great, I don't think. I'm just down on learn a lot of the time, I think. Maybe there's some uncommon learn cards. If you have things that are better than this to get with your learn, then it gets a lot better. But like putting one of these cards into your hand, so like, oh my gosh, I did not mean to click that. If you could choose, if your deck all of a sudden like you're drawing a card that's just weak quality, even if you have some modality to it, it's not great. I don't think when that's your option. I don't know. Cue me playing a learn deck that has like 500 learn cards and all sorts of lessons in it, but it feels tough. I feel like you're going to be able to get the learn cards if you have a really powerful bomb. I should really look at the other lessons first. Yeah, but if these lessons are the... I feel like it's more of a... If these are the common lessons, then... If these are the common lessons, then it's tough to like take the learn cards and expect to get a good uncommon lesson. There are other common lessons. I just haven't seen them yet. Are they all at the end of the file or something? Have I just not seen them? Learn lessons. Let's just scroll to the end, I guess. Okay. That's good to know. Lessons. Ooh, there are lessons. Hybrid 2-color ones. Perfect. Thank you, chat. That's actually a huge deal. Well, we may have to reevaluate some cards because we will see what we shall see. Let's just look for the lessons here for now. Sorcery lesson. Okay, 5 mana, create a 4/4 creature token. That's a nice lesson. Yeah, I'll go back to blue. Don't worry. There's a 5 mana 4/4. That's reasonable. Put X counters on it and make a 0/0. So it's like a 5 mana 3/3 or 4 mana 2/2. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Let's create a 2/1 black and white creature with flying. Nice. 3 mana 2/1 flyer. And then there is 2 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens with when it dies you gain a life. Nice. Okay. I'm coming around on learn. I think you won't really care about the colorless ones, but these things are nice. Create a 3/2. Nice. Okay. Thank you, chat, for letting me know that. We would have gotten there eventually. That's why I wasn't going to grade the cards like officially until I'd finished reading through the whole file of the commons. But the fact that there's some really nice cards you can gain access to is pretty nice. So like if you have the token lessons seem like they're going to be the card that you need to have before you start taking these other cards, because this is like those cards are only slightly inefficient, or they're actually just like a fine card to play. Like 3 mana make 2 1/1s that die into 1 life is just a pretty reasonable card. So if you have those sorts of things, it gets better. And then maybe you have like the modality of having 1 introduction to prophecy for when you need that, or 1 introduction to annihilation. Okay, I've come around on learn now. Okay, I thought that these were all you got access to. This is the first impressions after all. Yeah, that's kind of funny. Okay. Reject. Counter target creature or planeswalker spell unless its controller pays 3. If it's countered that way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. Not as huge of a fan of this one. Generally, conditional counter spells aren't great in limited because your opponent can wreck you. So, like, if you hold up 2 mana and they play a non-creature, you just get owned. And then late in the game, it just gets turned off. So those get a lot worse. All lessons are sorceries. That's good to know. Resculpt. Crux, for last time you have to do more than simply shout apply at the administrators. Ouch. That is a sad story. Oh my god, it's literally called Pop Quiz. I didn't even realize that. Resculpt. Exile a creature, target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 4/4 blue and red. So this is like you can save your creature from removal. You generally don't want to use this on your opponent's creature. Are there treasures in the set? I haven't seen any treasures in the set. But generally this card's not great. It's like a counter spell for removal where you turn your creature into a 4/4. Treasure tokens in blue-red, good to know. So that does get better if there are a lot of treasures. Soothsayer Adept, 2 mana 1/3 that can draw a card and discard a card. That's a pretty reasonable effect. We saw this card Erratic Visionary in War of the Spark and it performed decently. You generally only wanted 1 copy in your decks, but it was pretty nice. Create a 0/0 blue, green-blue fractal creature token. Put X counters on it, where X is 1 plus the total number of instant and sorcery cards in your own exile. You own an exile in your graveyard. Okay, so it's like a big creature. If you have a lot of instants and sorceries, in exile in your graveyard. I don't love it. It's just like it can get bounced, it can get killed, and it's not going to be very big most of the time. The fact that it's a creature that like dies to bounce is actually a pretty big deal. I generally don't like that sort of card. If it's going to be costing me 4 mana. Like if this was a 4 mana 4/4 consistently, it'd be pretty solid, but it's not going to be that consistently, especially on turn 4. Yeah. Vortex Runner. 8 or more lands. It gets +1/+0 and can't be blocked. That's a pretty cute design. I don't know how often that's going to happen, but maybe there's a ramp color. We haven't seen green yet. So maybe the blue-green one cares about ramping. It does have a little bit of tension with the Soothsayer Adept because this one's going to loot away your lands and this guy's going to want to be unblockable, but 3 mana 2/3 is not great, and getting to turn 8 is not great. It's not going to happen all that time, so not a great card, I don't think. Waterfall Aerialist. Flying, Ward 2. I kind of like that ability. 4 mana 3/1 flyer that is hard to target. I kind of like that. So let's just look at blue again. I mean, Frost Trickster is pretty clearly number 1. Bury in Books is probably up there. Pop Quiz is nice if you have those creatures. But again, I don't think I'm going to, like, one of the things with the learn cards is I think that you probably need, if you're only looking at the common lessons, you probably need one of the token ones to make it good. And you probably aren't going to be taking the learn cards until you have one of the token things, and those ones are going to go pretty fast because they are hybrid, so a lot of decks can play them. It's pretty cool pseudonym, the Mystical Archive stuff. So I like Frost Trickster at number 1, or at least initially. Like these are things before I'm like seeing all the cards. Probably Waterfall Aerialist is going to be up in like number 3 spot, and then maybe Bury in Books is just some interaction. I kind of like that ranking system, especially because it can cost 3. If you have, the other thing is like it's hard because the learn cards aren't great unless you have a lesson that makes a creature token. But once you have a lesson that makes a creature token, those are like reasonable cards because all of a sudden you're like Arcane Subtraction like draws you a creature that's like a decent sized creature. Burrog Befuddler could also be up in the top 3. I could see that, but it feels a little bit hard to use these in multiples, and I guess it's pretty decent in multiples because you can shrink things a little bit more, but hard to like hold them up. Draw a card, and then you have to get, like, it replaces itself and then draws you a lesson. And I don't think the lessons are good unless you have the token one. So one of the things in a top common that I like to think about is, can I first pick this card and reliably have it be good in my deck? Now, not all top commons are like that. There's some where you're like, well, I'm willing to risk it to get the biscuit because the payoff is so high. But it feels like with the learn cards, at least you kind of have to get one of the common lessons that you can get out of your sideboard. And if you don't have one of those, they're not great. And everyone's going to be snapping those up because they're flexible cards because they're hybrids. And it just feels kind of tough to make it work, so to speak. So, yeah. Moving on to black. This is cool. Oh, there's a dedicated lesson slot. We're learning more and more as we go through. Twitch chat is providing very helpful knowledge. There's a dedicated lesson slot. So there's a lesson in every pack. That could change things too. I am having my mind expanded, as hopefully much of Twitch and YouTube is as well. Ugh. Wild. Archive slot in every pack. Yeah, I knew that part. Okay, Arrogant Poet. Attacks, you may pay 2 life. If you do, it gains flying. That's a lot of life paying. I don't love that. But it is nice to have the option. Whoa, there's a little wrench next to someone's name if they're a staff member on Twitch. What? I've never seen that in my entire life. That's wild. Whoa. Cool beans, Cannon. Okay, Crushing Disappointment. So this is like a zero-sum game a lot of the time. Each player loses 2 life. You're putting this in your deck, so if you're like an aggro deck, maybe you care about that more. You draw 2 cards. So it's like a instant speed, cost an extra mana to make each player lose 2 life. That's just kind of slow. I don't love it. And if you're playing 4 mana to draw 2 cards, you can fall behind and then get wrecked. Okay, Essence Infusion. Put 2 counters on target creature, gains lifelink. This being a sorcery makes it pretty unplayable. Or generally that sort of effect would be pretty unplayable. Lash of Malice. We'll skip ahead. +2, -2. Nice! That's a good card. You'll love to see it. Lash of Malice. Because the -2 is going to kill things a lot of the time. Hunt for Specimens. A 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when it dies you gain life. And it's a learn, so... Generally very low impact card. A 1/1 for 2 mana that can draw a card. I mean, it draws a lesson. So that's like, if you have a creature token lesson, that's a pretty good card. Again, the colorless ones are not great, but if there's a lot of lessons running around, you could get some good stuff going. Leech Fanatic. As long as it's your turn. Leech Fanatic is like. Now that I know more about lessons, if there's a lesson in every pack, it's probably going to be reasonable that you get a lesson. So these lesson cards are probably relatively playable. I feel like Twitch chat and YouTube are getting to see my entire progression on lessons where I'm like, wow, this is garbage. Oh, wait, there's more lessons? Okay, this looks okay. Oh, wait, there's a lesson in every single pack? Okay, these cards are probably okay, pretty solid. Yeah. Leech Fanatic. It has lifelink on your turn. That's a pretty nice 2-drop. I think that's pretty reasonable. Destroy a creature or planeswalker. Whenever a creature blocks this turn, its controller loses 1 life. That's pretty good. I like this card. It's like Impale from Rivals of Ixalan. I'm sure there's a 4-mana black kill spell at sorcery speed more recent than that, or at least maybe there is. I don't know. But the losing a life is pretty nice too. Everyone thinks that leeches maintain a strictly sanguivorious diet, but in fact most freshwater leeches are carnivores. Wait, where are you going? I don't understand. I don't understand the flavor text. Oh, the joke is that leeches are disgusting. Okay. Thanks, Explode Things. I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. Hey, Cornball. Novice Dissector. Sacrifice another creature. No! I was looking for that line. Activate only as a sorcery. Ugh. If this was at an instant speed, it would be so much better. Why? Oh, I love it when this effect is at instant speed. It makes it so interesting. Currently not great. It does wreck enchantment removal a little bit, but we didn't see an enchantment removal spell in white. And we didn't see one in blue, did we? So maybe there's no enchantment removal in this set. Maybe there's one at uncommon or something, but if they're not at common, they're not coming up all that often. So that does make this sacrifice effect a lot worse when there's not an enchantment removal spell to like sacrifice your creature from under. Professor's Warning. You put a counter on target creature, or it gains indestructible until end of turn. And it's at instant speed. I kind of like that effect as a combat trick. Sometimes you'll play it. It's not like a great card, but sometimes a counter will just win you a combat. Sometimes indestructible protects from removal. So maybe you'll play it one time sometimes. Urge the twins to prepare for the Dark Mage Exodus, sounding very much like someone familiar with the rise of tyrants. Okay, that line sounds like Harry Potter. Professor Snape urged Harry to prepare for the return of Voldemort, he who shall not be named. In occlumency. I will prepare you for occlumency. Yeah, I know that the professor is Liliana. Familiar with the rise of tyrants. LOL. When it dies, if it had a counter on it, draw a card. Okay, so that synergizes with the Novice Dissector and the 1/1 in white that we saw earlier. Spectre of the Fens, 4 mana, 2/3 flyer. Target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. That's a nice ability to have. It looks like trinket text, but it ends up being relatively important in a lot of games. No, that was my like off-key Snape. I was not going super in depth on the Snape. Oh gosh, now I feel like I think Spectre. So if there's multiple 2/3 flyers, they all get a little bit worse because 2/3 flyers bump into each other. But the fact that this 2/3 flyer can block this 3/1 flyer, so that lines up decently well. They can both attack into each other. And then it blocks this 2/2 flyer, and it blocks this 2/2 flyer. It does not block this guy, so this guy's still looking great. Loving the combat professor still, but it looks like a 2/3 flyer. Like this guy can maybe stall a game pretty well. Unwilling Ingredient. Menace, 1/1. Okay. Exile Unwilling Ingredient from your graveyard. You draw a card and you lose a life. So it's a very low impact card, but it's a frog. You love to see it. And then you can exile it to draw a card. So this reminds me of the... I keep saying this reminds me of like other cards, but that's kind of how I analyze cards a lot of the time. It reminds me kind of the Knight from Throne of Eldraine, Foulmire Knight, where you would pay the 3 mana adventure for profane something, and you draw a card and lose a life, and then you would play the 1/1 Death Touch. A 1/1 Death Touch is better than a 1/1 Menace, but this card's definitely good to sacrifice or put counters on. Yep. Like if you need that sort of thing, and then being able to draw a card with it is nice. So this card probably will overperform. Build your own Dreadmalkin. Well, Dreadmalkin would sacrifice other things. I don't think this card's like a great thing, but you might play it if you have some synergies with maybe also even self-mill. Like if you have this Curate card, maybe the guy gets a little bit better because you could mill it over, and then you just have a 3 mana draw card in the graveyard. So if there's some self-mill stuff, maybe you'll play it. If you have some sacrifice stuff, maybe you'll play it. If you really care about being aggressive and you just need all the cards that attack early that you can, maybe it's better. But yeah, so far let's just look at initial thoughts on black. Probably Mage Hunter's Onslaught and Lash of Malice are up there, and then number 3. This card's honestly pretty decent. Promising Dusk Mage is a little bit too narrow for me. Yeah, but then when you top deck it on turn like 10, it's just a 1/1. I mean, and then it dies and then you draw a card, but like still, it's not like, doesn't always do some damage. This card's pretty decent, but I kind of like Hunt for Specimens potentially as well. Warning is good. Warning is not a card that you want as a top common because you don't play multiples of it. If it's not a card you want to play multiples of, it's generally not a top common in my opinion. I think Spectre's also a pretty decent option, so maybe that's number 3. Definitely the removal's top though. And then Novice Dissector is probably better than it looks. These cards are almost always better than they look. 4 mana 3/3 that can then sack things. You can sack these little Unwilling Ingredients. You can sack creatures that have been blanked. And you can put the counter anywhere, which is nice, so it works well with the Dusk Mage. Hunt for Specimens good if you have some lesson creatures. Yeah. Leech Fanatic can perform, but I think Spectre's probably number 3. I don't know. We'll have to... More context. Keep feeding me the context. These lesson cards are getting more appealing. I think it's going to be hard for me to justify first picking a learn card when I don't know if I have any good lessons. But because one of the things is you can always just play the lesson in your deck if it's a good enough card. So you need to have a couple of learn cards that are reasonable to play to want to put the lesson in your sideboard. So if I have a couple of Hunt for Specimens, that's a reasonable card. But then there's also the risk of drawing your first Hunt for the Specimens. You get a good card, and then the second time you don't have a good card to get. I don't know. The learn cards are tough. I feel like I'm not going to prioritize them, and then it's going to end up being like really good, and then I'm going to have to like switch my perspective. Yeah, you get to rummage, which is just a 2-mana 1/1 that rummages is not really. Attacking spirits get +1/+0 until end of turn. Spirit warrior. So blue red might be spirits. Are there spirits in? No, white had a lot of spirits, right? Ooh, it did. Spirit soldier, bird cleric, spirit cleric, spirit bird. So white red might be a spirits color. Blue has some merfolks and djinns. No spirits, it looks like. Wizards. Red and white are spirits, it looks like. White and black are flying inklings. Nice, nice. So this card might be okay. Attacking, buffing your spirits. There is the spirit token. Yeah. Dragons approach. 3 damage to each opponent. You may exile 4 cards named Dragons Approach from your graveyard. If you do, search your library and... What? Put it onto the battlefield and shuffle. A deck can have any number of cards named Dragons Approach. That's so funny. That card's so unplayable and limited. 3 damage to each opponent. And then you can just... Yeah. Have I decided on a college? I don't even know the names of the colleges. We're talking about in Strixhaven, right? You can get a dragon creature card and put it on the battlefield. Okay. Target creature gets +3/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. This is not good. 3 mana to give only +1 toughness means your offense still going to lose the combat. Learning is nice, though. So it's like a combat trick that replaces itself, but it's tough. If the pen is mightier than the sword, think what a giant tome could do. That's hilarious text. Man, I wonder if I can actually name the triomes for my Ikoria. There's 5 of them. Obviously there is Raugrin Trirome. There is Ketria Triome, I think. Ingatha Triome. Indatha. Ketria, Indatha. Don't help me, chat. Raugrin. Oh, gosh. Come on, Nikolai, you can do this. They're played in standard all the time. I know this isn't a Strixhaven analysis, but now I just wonder if I can do it. I'm not looking at chat, I'm sure someone in chat is spoiling it. Indatha, Raugrin, Ketria. There's 2 that I'm missing. I think Indatha is the Abzan one. Raugrin, I think... No, Ketria is the Temur one. Raugrin, I think, is the... Oh, what's the Mardu one called? Dang it. Yeah, I couldn't remember the other 2. Raugrin was Jeskai, yeah. Zagoth, Savai, yeah, I wasn't going to get those. Good job, chat. I knew you could do it. I wonder how many people in the YouTube comments got that. And how many people were just annoyed that I went into a random trivia mode. Savai. Dang it. Zagoth. I think I thought of Zagoth, I think, when I was first thinking of them, and it just completely left my mind, so I was not going to get Zagoth. Zagoth is the Sultai one. First day of class. I don't think Enthusiastic Study is that great. It depends on if you have good learn card, but +1 toughness means that this is often not going to be a good combat trick, and you don't want to just be a card that's a 3-mana tutor for a lesson. So yeah, don't love it. First day of class. When a creature enters the battlefield under your control this turn, put a counter on it, it gains haste. And this is learn. This card's not good. It's just too hard to set up where you go like, you have to have like multiple creatures and like, yeah, and I don't see how it benefits from being an instant. Maybe it's good with token makers or something, but I don't think it's good. Fuming Effigy. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, Fuming Effigy deals 1 damage to each opponent. I wonder how often that's going to happen. Kind of interesting with this frog. Or like reanimation stuff, like the spirit that brings cards back. Heated Debate. Can't be countered. Deals 4 damage to target creature, planeswalker. Boom! That's what we're looking for. Spitfire Lagak, but worse. Well, Spitfire Lagak was a 3/4, so... And that had landfall, so not really a great comparison there, I don't think. Zagoth Mamba. But Heated Debate's great. Just 3 mana deal for it at any to creatures is nice, and it can't be countered. Illustrious Historian from your graveyard. Create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. So it's 5 mana to get a 3/2 or a 2/2. This card's pretty good. I like it. And you can exile it at instant speed, and it looks like there's a thing that rewards you from things leaving the graveyard. Nice. Self-mill's getting a little bit better. This 2 mana Curate card is looking a little bit better if you have a couple of the exile cards from your own graveyard things going on, because you can get some extra value that way. It does work with. I know it works with tokens, but I haven't seen many token makers. Pigment Storm, 5 damage to target creature. Excess damage is dealt to the controller instead. That's real nice. It's like one of the things I like about this card is 5 mana to deal 5 to a creature or player would be really good, because sometimes dealing 5 to the opponent is really nice. And so if they have a small creature in play, like a 2/1, like a Historian, typically you wouldn't use your 5 mana removal on it, but you can like deal 4 to the opponent. So this card seems really good. Heated Debate and Pigment Storm are looking great to me. Pillar Drop Warden. 3 good cards in a row. Yeah, made up for the fact that these 2 cards are pretty. There were 3 really bad cards in a row, so I like those 3 cards. Pillar Drop Warden. Reach. Sacrifice it to return an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Oh my gosh, this card's getting better and better. You love it. Can you imagine having like 3 Fuming Effigies in play, and then all of a sudden your Pillar Drop Warden is just like zapping them? Pew, 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 pew. I don't know. That would be really funny. And it has Reach, the obligatory 4 mana Reach creature in red. I feel like it's just like a meme at this point, but I don't know why they always give these Reach. I mean, red has had Reach for a long time, I think. I mean, there was a card in Times Battle Remastered that had Reach that was in red, but maybe that was because it was a joke. I don't know. Feels like they keep giving red Reach creatures. They got to give it something, which is, I don't know. Turn target instant or sorcery from graveyard to hand. Activate this only as a sorcery. Oh, and you sacrifice it. I didn't see that. Never mind. That's sad. I was so excited to just be like, Pillar Drop Warden control. Oh, that would have been so cool. Can you imagine? That would have been so absurd. There's an uncommon that gives you a 3/2 every time something leaves your graveyard. That's pretty cool. But yeah, you don't really want to be sacrificing your 4-drop infinite recursion on a common. I mean, how sick would that be? This card would be absurd. It'd be so good. And it's a 1/5, so it's going to be hard to get. You have to activate it as a sorcery. I don't think this card's great, just generally because it's like you don't want to sacrifice your 4-drop to get back a card. And it's not basically Spellkeeper Weird, because Spellkeeper Weird costs 3 mana, and it costs 3 mana, and the difference between 3 and 4 is pretty significant. Your 4 mana 1/5 you want to keep in play. And also, I don't see any black reanimation spell that like brings back multiple creatures from the graveyard. Typically, that's a pretty good combo where you have like, you would have your Pillar Drop Warden, and then you'd have like your Soul Salvage. You can't sack it instant speed. Yeah, exactly. Spellkeeper Weird could sack it instant speed, I think, too, yeah. And did it cost 2 to sacrifice? I thought it cost only 1. I don't know, maybe that's wrong. But this card doesn't seem good to me. Target creature +2/+7 gains first strike until end of turn. That's actually decent. And it has treasure token. There's the treasure we've been waiting for. It cost 2? Yeah, that makes sense. It did cost 1. Well, now chat's divided. There's only one way to settle this. Cold hard facts. It cost 2. It's okay, Gaelan. I wasn't certain either. Sudden Breakthrough. So this one makes a treasure, which has synergy with that blue card we looked at earlier. This Resculpt card, where you can make a 4/4 from a treasure. But generally, this card's also decent because +2/+0 and first strike. Like, it's like a sure strike, but it's a little bit. It costs essentially 1 because of the treasure thing, and the treasure can be used for other things. It's called Sure Strike, Grumpy. So Sudden Breakthrough is a reasonable combat trick. First Strike's a really good mechanic on combat tricks. Tome Shredder. Haste, exile an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard, put a counter on Tome Shredder. This is one of my favorite designs that I've seen from this entire set. That is so flavorful. It makes so much sense to me. It's like, oh, obviously that's how it works. It eats the books and gets bigger. Oh my gosh, that's an incredible design. And you can just play it and attack them. I like this card a lot. I'm not sure how good it is, but I love this design. It's so flavorful. Oh my gosh, and the flavor text is incredible. incredible. Oh my gosh. The flavor text is a very subtle reference to the dog ate my homework. Oh my gosh, this card is perfect. This is one of the best cards I've ever seen in terms of design. Quintorius, would you care to explain why you didn't complete your homework? Oh my gosh, because the dog ate it. Oh my gosh. That's incredible. I love that design. 3 mana 2/2 haste. It can grow if you have a lot of instants and sorceries. Works well with this fuming effigy. Probably reasonable if you have a decent number. Like if you can grow this to be a 4/4, it's okay. And it enables leave the graveyard. If like you're making a 3/2 every time you do that, that's what seems pretty nice. The wolf is a weird card. Sometimes you grow it, sometimes you don't. I've been married a long time ago. Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from? Tome Shredder Wolf. Okay, Twin Scroll Shaman. 3 mana, 1/2 double strike. So this works well with counters, equipments, which we haven't seen any equipments. You can attack with it whenever the coast is clear, and then you can grow it when the coast isn't clear. I think, maybe, I don't know. 3 mana, 1/2 double strike. Hey, it's Red Cap Attacker. Yeah, the Red Cap guy. The Red Cap thing actually performed pretty well in Eldraine. And like it performed better than I thought it would. That might be because of like some knight synergies, because it was a knight, I think. But this card works well with counters. If you put one counter on it, a 3 mana 2/3 double strike is pretty nice. The Wolf with Combat Professor. The Wolf with Combat Professor. Oh my gosh, that's nice. Giving it Vigilance. Nice, nice. Way to find the combo. Oh yeah, you love to find the Vigilance plus tap ability. Yeah, I have not seen much equipment, so this card is going to depend on how good the buffs are for it. But it's like essentially, when you see Double Strike, you have to imagine it as having twice this power. So it's a 3 mana 2/2, but it can do some cool stuff. Not super good on face value here, though. We haven't seen a ton of stuff that works with it. Bayou Groff. Well, it's a 2 mana 5/4, so we can just move on, right? There's no downside. As an additional cost to cast this, sacrifice a creature or pay 3. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get so wrecked by someone going Unwilling Ingredient into attack me, play Bayou Groff. Oh my gosh. That seems terrifying. It's a plant dog. A 5 mana 5/4 is not the end of the world. And the fact that you can cast this on like turn 2 or turn 3 sometimes, like by playing like a 2-drop that doesn't matter, or like a 2-drop like this, like 1/1 that dies to gain a life, or like just some other kind of disposable card. Like this Unwilling Ingredient is the perfect curve out with it. The this 1/1 guy is also pretty good because then you have a 6/5. It's not like immune to them having something, but it's pretty like you can win a lot of games by playing a 2 mana 6/5 or something like that. That looks like the best card. Well, hold our horses, folks. This card, there's a lot of risk involved with the Bayou Groff. I mean, you're going to be casting this. Oh, yeah, you don't get the counter. You're right. You don't get the counter. You're right. So it's a 2 mana 5/4 pretty much every time. But like, if you can sacrifice a creature, which isn't going to happen all that often because there's not that many 1 mana creatures, and you can cast it on turn 5. So a 5 mana 5/4 or a card that you cast early at some significant cost. So like a 2 mana 5/4, but you discard a card. There have been cards in the past, if you have a 1-drop, there have been cards that in the past are like 2 mana 4/3, discard a card. Like that was a card in Amonkhet, and that card was pretty reasonable because you could just blow your opponent out of the water before they had a chance to stabilize. But with Bayou Groff, I mean, this card seems like it could be okay. Well, we'll have to see what else green has to offer, how many cheap 1-drops there are. But it definitely seems like a cool combo with this Unwilling Ingredient. I definitely like that combo. It can also lose you a game if they just immediately remove it. This thing can kill it. So if you're on the draw, your opponent can kill it before it gets to do anything, which is a little bit unfortunate. There's also this thing can kill it, but that's cost 4 mana. There is this thing that can put it on top of your library, which is a little bit of a bummer. What does white have to deal with it? Expel. The fact that I'm looking at the removal, and it looks like most of the removal interacts pretty favorably against the Bayou Groff because it's like usually costs 3 mana and can still answer the Groff. So that's a little bit of a downside, but this card can definitely be a house in the right deck. Big play. Quandrix is running out of time. If they're going to capture the Witherpool mascot, they need something big here. Is +2/+2 and gains reach, and then put a counter on it. Oh, that's nice. I like that. So it's 2 mana +3/+3, but it gets a counter. That's a good card. I like it. That's a sweet design. Sweet design. Works with some of the counter synergies. I like this card. It's like the 2 mana +3/+3 in reach. From Theros Beyond Death. Gift of Strength. But there's a counter aspect to it, which I like, especially because there's some counter synergy. So that's a pretty good combat trick. Charge through. Gains trample until end of turn, draw a card. So if you have a Magecraft deck, that could be pretty decent. Or a deck that just wants some cheap instants in the graveyard, like because you have like Tome Shredder, so that's decent. It does target a creature, so it can get blown out, so be careful. I think Crash Through gave all creatures trampled. Field Trip. Search your library for a basic forest card, put that card onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Ooh, a little bit of ramp plus learning. Probably not super great. I mean, it cantrips and draws you a card, but yeah, it's good if you have a lesson that means something, and it also helps you cast the more expensive clunky lessons. So probably a reasonable card, but also kind of clunky. The 2 mana lesson colorless isn't ramp; it just gets you a land from your deck. Leyline Invocation, 6 mana, create a 0/0 blue fractal where X is number of lands. So it's a 6 mana 6/6, but it can be bigger. But it dies to bounce. Is there a bounce spell? Did we see a bounce spell? I don't think we did. We saw Bury in books, which is kind of like a bounce spell. They're not being a... This is a little bit different from a bounce spell, but it does kill the creature permanent. That's okay, because bounce spells are generally like 1 or 2 mana, like an unsummon. An unsummon seems like it'd be really good in the set, and it's probably not in the set because of all these tokens running around. This seems okay. 2 list to cast if you've cast another instant or sorcery spell this turn. So you can use Charge Through followed by this. Target creature gets +1/+2, and then it fights target creature you don't control. That's nice. It's like a fierce... What's it called? Fierce confrontation. No, epic confrontation from Dragons of Tarkir. There's a bounce spell that can't target tokens. Well, that's a kind of a tough luck on the bounce spell. This is a good fight spell. I like it. And the fact that you can cast it for cheap if you've done something else is nice. Professor of Zoomancy. Enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Oh, this card's really good. 4 mana for 5/4 worth of stats spread across 2 bodies. Sign me up. And one of them is very sacrificable. You'll love to see it. Reckless Amplimancer is also quite good. Double its power and toughness until end of turn. If you have 10 mana, you can double it twice. And the artwork on this card's great. But this card is pretty much exactly the card from Guilds of Ravnica that was +2/+2 for 5 mana. Because you very rarely double activate this. So, Reckless Amplimancer is great. Professor of Zoomancy is incredible too. I love this card. Oh, right, you can put counters on it. That makes it even better, especially with the big play type deal running around. You love to see it. There are more cards, never fear. Skrrred Colony. 2 mana 2/2. So green has a couple of decent 2-drops, it looks like, with the reach. +2/+2 as long as you control 8 or more lands. So if that's a theme of the set, then maybe, oh my gosh, scrolling all the way to the bottom again, then maybe the field trip gets better because it can help you get more lands into play. Even late in the game, it'll matter. Pretty reasonable card. 2 mana 2/2 reach is nothing to be scoffed at, though it's not a great body. Spined Karok. 3 mana 2/4. They had to be one of these things. I like the art. Let's read the flavor text, see how that does. The bogs are deeper than you realize. Most of the space beneath the surface is taken up by these enormous Karoks. You might think your feet are touching the bottom. They're probably not. Wow, that's terrifying. Whew, imagine walking through a swamp like that. And it's a 2/4. If it had flash, it would make sense with the probably not part, but sometimes you need a defensive body. The chef. That's hilarious. Spring Maid. Main Servant. And it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. So that's just like a functional reprint of the card from Ravnica Allegiance. It is the 3 mana 3/2 gain 2. That's a pretty reasonable body. It might actually be, depending on if your deck really wants to be defensive, a 3 mana 2/4 can be actually a pretty nice body, but gaining 2 life is nice. Tangle Trap. Deals 5 damage to target creature with flying or destroy an artifact. Nice. That's actually probably a main deckable card, because there's probably a decent number of both of those things. We'll have to see how many flyers there are, but that could be main deckable. I could see that happening. It's like Broken Wings, but it doesn't kill enchantments. Not killing enchantments doesn't seem as big of a deal in this set, because there's not really any enchantment removal that we've seen. We haven't seen a ton of enchantments at all. Like, I don't even know if we've seen a single enchantment, really. Like, kind of wild. Like, have we seen any enchantments? I'm just, like, trying to remember. Yeah, we didn't see it. There's not a single common enchantment? What? It's like you think you're losing something, but like I didn't really remember seeing any enchantments, and there just aren't any enchantments. So that card is actually nice. Well, Broken Wings also hitting flyers is nice, and hitting enchantment removal was really a big deal, but there's no enchantment removal, so this card maybe gets a little bit worse. There are 4 enchantments in the set. Well, that's wild. So for top green commons, I mean, I have to keep having to go back and forth on these pages. I wish I could just put all of the cards on one page, but, you know, I'm not going to complain. I really like Scryfall. Mage Duel is nice. Green doesn't get great removal a lot of the time, and this is pretty reasonable. +1/+2 means you can often win the combats, and it can be cast for cheaper a lot of the time. Professor of Zoomancy is a great 4-drop. Number 3. I probably wouldn't put the Groff because it's a very narrow card. Like, I can't imagine first picking Groff. I can't imagine first picking this thing. You really want to be able to first pick your top commons. Field Trip could be good depending on how much ramp green has to do. This 2-drop is decent. But Mage Duels, Zoomancy. Yeah, green gets a little bit weaker cards, it looks like. So there's the Mage Duel, the Zoomancy. Maybe the Bayou Groff gets in there, depending on how well the set supports it, but I don't think so. Maybe Groff is number 3. I think it's probably better than these cards. The Reckless Amplimancer is a pretty reasonable card too, especially with the pump spells, because if you make this a 3/3, being able to give +3/+3 for 5 mana is real nice. So maybe those 3 are the top. The Groff is fine, but it's hard to... There's a lot of removal that can kill it, and it's hard to get to work. She's brilliant if a bit overbearing. My gosh. That's hilarious. Linear growth, but am I a first year? That's hilarious. I like that flavor text too. Remember the rules, no spells to the face. The flavor text in this set is on point. That's incredible. I like those 3 cards maybe. Biograph probably in there. But the green cards look relatively decent. Getting to some gold cards here. Biomathematician. I will reach infinity. There's confidence there. There's a quiet calm before the storm right there in that statement. I will reach infinity. I will reach infinity. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. Choo choo. Sorry. I lost myself there. Whew. What happened? Biomathematician. The little engine that could inhabited my body. It flowed through me. Almost like this pose that he's in. He's like, I am the little engine that could. Lost in infinity. I went to infinity. Oh gosh. Okay, now to read the card. When it enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put a +1 counter on each fractal you control. So there's a 3 mana 2/2 that makes a 1/1, and then if you have other fractals, it pumps them. Nice. That's a pretty good card. 3 mana 2/2 plus a 1/1. Plus even better. Nice. Reasonable card for sure. Not sure how early I'd pick it because it is a gold card. Blood Researcher. Oh, this is a common, right? These are all commons. That's pretty neat. That works really well with itself, because then the first one you make, and then it buffs the other ones you have. That's pretty cool. There are a couple cards that make fractals that we've seen. Yeah, it kind of looked like an uncommon. Blood Researcher. When you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Blood Researcher. Okay. So it's a 3-mana 2/2 menace, which doesn't need that much. If you get 1 counter, it's nice. And it does work with those 1/1s that die into things. That die into a life gain. You gain 4 life and you learn. That's not great. Adding 4 life to one of these cards is just not a card I'm excited about. Elemental Masterpiece. Create 2 4/4 blue and red elemental creature tokens. For 7 mana. 7 mana for 2 4/4s. Okay, and then you can discard it to create a treasure token. Huh. This card seems good to me. 7 mana for 2 4/4s are nice. Like top end thing. It seems really hard to lose after you cast this. Making the treasure is a little bit tough. That's not really worth a card. 2 mana to make a treasure. But I could see playing this. I don't think you would take it super highly because it is very expensive. But once you're in blue-red, you probably want one of these to win the game. Yeah, I was going to read the flavor text, but then I read it and I was like, that's a little bit too heavy-handed. Rutha passed with flying, living colors. I guess I ended up reading it anyway. Cost reduction could be nice, yeah. This lesson seems nice. A 4/4 body for 5 is like a reasonable card to get. You've made a splash. Now show me a torrent. This is a pretty reasonable lesson to go get out of your sideboard. And it can be flexible. The hybrid mana is nice on that. Draw 2 cards. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So it's like a super growth spiral. I love the artwork. At first, the equations were simply numbers. But in those numbers, I saw a story. And in that story, I saw a pattern. And suddenly it all fit together. I love the enthusiasm. I can kind of imagine the enthusiasm from the artwork, the flavor text. Like I want to be this person's friend because they seem like they enjoy learning and science. And I don't know. All I need is a friend who likes learning and science. Friend wanted. Must enjoy learning and science. Is the uncommon legend in the set? A legendary uncommon? Nice. They actually have a name and stuff? Awesome stuff. This is a really sweet card. 4 mana draw 2 and putting a land so you can ramp yourself. Pretty fun. It is a common. It is a little bit expensive for what it does, but I kind of like it. I don't know. Fractal Summoning could be sweet too. I don't know why this got moved over, but Fractal Summoning works well with this guy. Create a 0/0 and put X counters on. This is generally a kind of inefficient card, so you're not really ever going to put this in your main deck, but it could be an okay lesson to go get, especially if you have Fractal synergies. I don't know. I don't think this card's great. Exhilarating Elocution. His words poured forth on waves of golden light, scouring all fear from his audience's hearts and minds. Nice. Two counters on target creature you control. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. That's not that great. It being a sorcery really hurts that. Infused with Vitality. Till end of turn, target creature gains Death Touch, and when this creature dies, return to battlefield tapped under its owner's control. You gain 2 life. So that life gain can complement the Blood Researcher. Nice. So you give it Death Touch, and then when it returns, it enters tapped. Nice. And you gain 2 life. That's fun. I like it. The life gain probably works with some of the cards in the set, and there are some enters the battlefield or death triggers, I think. I don't remember all of them exactly, but I think there's probably some. Like this thing gains you more 2 life. The 2 life could be really relevant. Blood Research into Springmane Servant. Servant could work pretty well with this stuff. One thing that I will say about sets that are focused around 2 color pairs is sometimes you draft them a little bit differently. Like I drafted Guilds of Ravnica and Ravnica Legions differently than I draft normal sets because you're so incentivized to pursue these gold cards. And if this set is like that, where like there's only 5 viable color combinations, which could totally be the case, then which with these common cards seems to indicate, then you draft the set a little bit differently. I'll probably go into that. I'll definitely go into that in more detail as the set goes on. It does not work on tokens canon, no, because when the creature dies, it doesn't come back if it's a token. But when you're drafting this sort of set, try to make sure that you just leave yourself open to a 2 color combination rather than, oh, I need to take monocolored cards and see what's open, because half of the color combinations are immediately axed from your mind. So just like take the best card out of the pack, even if it's a gold card, and then just find which 2 color combo is open, because you get very rewarded for finding the open color in this set. If someone else is drafting black-green right next to you, you get hosed. But if someone is drafting black-green and the person next to them is drafting red-white, then finding out that blue-green is open or blue-red is open is going to be very good for you. So yeah, I think I'm probably going to start out by using my 5-pick method, where I just take the best card in the pack on power level for the first 5 picks and then see where that leaves me and what has seemed open as a 2-color guild, potentially. Inkling Summoning, 2/1 flyer. That's a pretty nice lesson to have in the sideboard. I like it. Lorehold Pledge Mage. First strike, Magecraft. When you cast it, +1/+0. Okay, so this having first strike makes this a little bit different from the common version, because the common one that cost 2 mana didn't have first strike, so it would still trade. This one's really tough to block. Make your mark. Those who do... I'm going to have to read all the flavor text in this set at some point, because it's so good. Those who do learn from history may still choose to repeat it. Wow. Look at that. In the background, there's another version of him. Like, that's even bigger. That's gorgeous artwork. Let's see what the card does. +1/+0 until end of turn. When that creature dies, create a 3/2. That's actually pretty reasonable. If it trades in combat, you get your card upgraded to a 3/2. I like it. I don't know how good it is. Ooh, Flying Death Touch in blue-green? Love to see that. That's hype. I skipped over Moldering Karok, but that's a cool card. This is common, you're right. Yeah. I keep forgetting that these gold cards aren't uncommons. I don't know why. They just seem like they'd be uncommons. Make Your Mark works really well with the Pledge Mage. I guess it doesn't, because it won't die. This is a weird design, but it's kind of cool. Oh, you can. Nice. Good point, Big B. It's like a 1-mana 3/2. Cast on your opponent's creatures. Moldering Karok, Trample Lifelink. But what about the 5-mana 3/3 flyer or whatever that Golgari was supposed to get? That's a joke from a while ago. They did like a big Magic quiz on like which color would get like a 3/3 flyer or something that had like flying in like Menace or something. Or there's like a 3/3 flyer, and like blue-white wasn't the answer. It was like black-green. It was just like the weirdest thing ever. It was a meme. 4-mana 3/3 Trample Lifelink, reasonable. 2-mana 1/1 Flying Death Touch, I like that. 5-mana 3/4 Haste that can scry one. That's pretty nice. Scrying is really nice, especially at the top end of your curve. Could be pretty reasonable. Only because they see it as also that in normal set. Olin Shield Mage, Ward, pay 3 life. That's pretty reasonable, making them pay 3 life. That's a nice sized body too. Here's your 5-mana 3/3 flyer. What? Why do I care about 5-mana 3/3 flyers? I don't know. Was this... Oh, because the other one was a 2/2? The worst Grasping Thrill? Yeah. Grasping Thrill was pretty great, though. This is a pretty cool card. I don't know. Hard to deal with. Good in aggressive decks. Not as good on defense. Defense? Pest Summoning. Oh my gosh. They tried their best to make these little horrible monsters look adorable, but they kind of... Step 1, put the pests in mud. Step 2, wait. Guide to Pest Breeding. Create 2 1/1 black pest tokens. The 3 mana for 2 1/1s that die into a life is pretty reasonable, and it's a pretty decent lesson overall, I think. Prismari Pledge Mage. Defender. So it's a 2 mana 3/3 Defender. Whenever you cast or copy an instant, it can attack. So it didn't have Defender. That's pretty nice if you're a defensive deck that's trying to cast this like 7 mana card. I like it. Pretty reasonable. Quandrix Pledge Mage. These are all commons. This is wild. There's a lot of gold cards. But these are hybrids, so that's a factor. Cast or copy an instant, put a counter on Quandrix Pledge Mage. So it's a 3 mana, but you can start getting counters on it. I like that. I like it. I like it. Could work well getting some counters. The first step toward transcending physical limitations is discarding assumptions about what is possible. Wow, I want to put that on my like wall. This is great motivation. The first step toward transcending physical limitations is discarding assumptions about what is possible. Just good life advice from Magic the Gathering flavor text. I wonder who wrote that. Pretty good advice. Relic Sloth, 5 mana 4/4, Vigilance Menace. Pretty nice card, honestly. Vigilance Menace is pretty good. The artwork's pretty cool too. Sounds like how people imagine lifting works until they get to the hospital. That's kind of messed up, but it's kind of funny as well. Relic Sloth, 5 mana 4/4 Vigilance Menace. Probably just a pretty good card, I think. It is a gold card, so it's... I don't know how early you want... Like, as I said, given that it's a 5-guild set, essentially, you just pretty much want to take the gold cards as if they don't have the gold card, because you don't get as... Like, normally, if you take a monocolored card, you can put it into 4 different color combos, because that color will pair with 4 different color combos. If you take a monocolored card in this set, it looks like it's only going to fit into 2 color combos. So it's like half as effective in the flexibility way. So that means that the delta between the power level of the monocolored card and the gold card are don't have to be as high when you're taking it. So like normally like Relic Sloth versus a decent white card, the white card might get the edge because it's a monocolored card. But here Relic Sloth can be a lot more appealing in that head-to-head because it's only half as flexible, whereas normally it'd be 1/4 as flexible. 3 colors decently supported as well. I think I saw the tapped duels and they look incredible. I'm super excited to get to those. Those cards look sweet. Okay. Spectacle Mage. Okay, we'll get to those in a second. Instant and sorcery spells you cast with mana value 5 or greater cost 1 less to cast, and it's a 3-mana 2/2 flyer, and there's a 7-mana make 2 4/4s that basically wins the game up here. Oh my gosh. Spectacle Mage hype. You love to see it. Rise of Extus. Exile a creature, nice. Exile up to 1 target creature, target instant or sorcery from a graveyard, nice. And it's Learn. So this is just a good card on its own, and it can draw you an extra thing or Rummage. And at 6 mana, Rummaging is pretty nice. I like it. I like Rise of Extus. This is a good card. And it's learning you. It goes into 2 different color combos. It is expensive, so you don't prioritize it too much, but I think this is a cool design. This is like a Learn card that I'm like, wow. 6 mana to exile a creature, and then the exiling a card from a graveyard seems like it could actually be relevant in this set. So, and then you get to essentially, even if it was just Rummaging, that would be reasonable on a card that was this flexible. And then the fact that you get to potentially draw a decent lesson that makes a creature from your sideboard is pretty nice. So, Rise of X is pretty cool. I don't think you can take it super high. I mean, it is flexible because it's hybrid, but 6 mana cards, you can't prioritize them too highly. Also, I just want to say, it's awesome to have so many viewers here excited for the new set, chiming in with chat, teaching me what the cards do, how the pack collations work. I really appreciate everyone hanging out. It's been very helpful to have people to bounce ideas off of, because these are my first time seeing like all of these cards, and it's been fun. Silver Quill Pledge Mage. Vampire Cleric, nice. Yeah, the hybrid cards are nice. So those could potentially like be like high picks as well because of that reason I said. Because typically you're like, okay, my monocolored card can go into 4 color combinations. But if you have a hybrid card, it can go into 8 color combinations because it's just every color combination that involves white or black in some way, which is everything except for red, blue, and green, blue, pretty much. And white, blue. So that's 3. So I guess it's 7. Color combinations of the 10. White, blue, maybe it's 6 of them. No, it's 7 because white, black has the overlap. So I think it's 7, I think. Pretty much 3 of the ones that involve blue. And then what's the 4th one? Yeah. Oh, no, this is white. You're right. It's 8. It's 8. This is white. But yeah, I think it's so like these cards are pretty flexible because like typically, as I was saying, so if your monocolored cards can go into 2 different color combinations in this set, the gold cards can go into 1, and then the Silver Quill Pledge Mage can go into 4 of them, so it can go into every single one except for red, blue, which is pretty much nice. When you cast your copy instant, it gains your choice of flying or lifelink. So that's nice. A 3 mana thing that can be a flyer is pretty okay. It's hybrid, but it's not like too powerful. Lifelink can be nice too if they don't have any blockers. Spirit Summoning seems good. A 3 mana 3/2 that you can get out of the board is pretty nice, and it's hybrid, so it's flexible. Spiteful Squad. Death Touch. Enters the battlefield with 2 counters. So 4 mana 2/2 Death Touch. When it dies, you put the counters on a creature. That's pretty reasonable too. Oh no, I don't like Spiteful Squad. They're mean. Don't you know first years pay a toll to walk through here? Yikes, that's not very nice. Square Up. This art is trippy. Real trippy. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is think inside the box. Oh gosh, target creature has base power and toughness 4/4 until end of turn. It doesn't fit into blue-green either. I thought I said blue-green. Blue-green and blue-red. Target. I was thinking they were going to make a joke about like the fact that they call it Square Up and then they use the word radical in the thing. It's like a radical is the same as a square root. So that's just too clever. And it's like 4 is like a square number. I don't know. Target creature base power and toughness 4/4 until end of turn. That's probably not a great card, but sometimes if you really need to enable your Magecraft stuff, it could be okay. Oh, it's perfect. It's fine. Explode things. I mean, it's not like you're telling me exactly what the cards are, and I'm going to end up reading them anyway. Common Lessons, Pledge Mages, Uncommon Half Hybrids, and Rare 4-mana Hybrids. Pumps Fractal tokens a lot. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Orzhov College / house name. No clue. We'll get there, I guess, with the lands. Stonebound Mentor. These are all commons. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, scry one. 3 mana 3/3 that can then scry you a bunch, and it's a spirit. Quintorius beamed, his mind eager to absorb every historical fact the spirit wanted to divulge. Quintorius! Quintorius made a feature earlier on. I definitely remember seeing Quintorius. And wasn't Quintorius on the white card, the exclude card? Quintorius. I definitely remember seeing the name Quintorius. Let's see. Quintorius was a daydreamer, far happier digging through history books than practicing battle tactics. He agreed with the military academy on only one thing: he did not belong in their ranks. The dog card also had Quintorius. Yes. Quintorius, would you care to explain why you didn't complete your homework? Oh, yes, Quintorius. You'll love to see it. Quintorius. It looks like he's excited. He's excited to meet the spirit advisor. The wolf ate Quintorius' homework. Teach by example. Whenever you catch your next instant or sorcery spell, copy it. Okay, so in the past, this hasn't been super cool. Also, I love that it has this artwork on it, the same bird. And it's got the 2 mana 1/1. It's got this thing on it too, the Needlethorn Drake. So they're kind of teaming up, it looks like. Which I always love when there's like art like that crosses over. But looks like when you cast your next instant or sorcery, copy it, and you can choose new targets. That's generally not great, but it does work really well with the green Magecraft card. Like if you have blue, green, you can copy your card and cast it for cheaper, so you get 2 of the effects for 1. And copying your spells could work for Magecraft. So, teach by example, looking pretty reasonable here. Even though normally this card wouldn't be very good. Yeah, it's like the dual strike card in Call Time was partly bad because it couldn't copy expensive things. This card also can't really copy expensive things because it's prohibitive to do so. I don't know. It's probably not great. This sort of effect is usually really tough to work in limited. Sorry, I'm going to have to sneeze here. It's one of those things where I can feel the sneeze coming, but maybe it won't. We'll have to find out eventually. Thrilling discovery. You gain 2 life, then you may discard 2 cards. If you do, draw 3 cards. Nice. So white-red looking kind of like a more controlling color, so maybe the 2 mana 1/4 is a little bit better, but white-red generally has some aggressive ideas in it. But I'm excited to see how that works. Magecraft and Storm. Nice. Gain 2 life is nice on this because it fuels some of the life gain cards. Thrilling Discovery can be copied by Teach. No, it can't. No, it can't. You're right. It can be copied by it, but it won't get you the extra cards you want. Huh. It's probably a card that you play sometimes, but not often, I have to imagine. Though there is an instant and sorceries putting them in the graveyard theme, so maybe it's a lot better than it looks. Because this sort of effect is not typical for white-red, so it'll be interesting. Red-white grindy control would be really sweet. I hope that happens because it'd be really fun. Change of pace. Witherbloom Pledge Mage. 5 mana. Whenever you cast or copy an instant, you gain 1 life. 5 mana 5/5 is already good, and then you can just gain some life to trigger your stuff. That's pretty good. Biblioplex Assistant. Flying. Enters the battlefield. Put a target instant or sorcery from your graveyard on top of your library. Reasonable. Quintorius again. Where? This must be the lost city of Xanthar, where my people lived before becoming nomads. Think of the history we'll learn here. Oh my gosh, Quintorius is a beast. Oh my gosh. Luckily Chad is on Quintorius watch. We didn't want to miss that one. Teach by example. I don't know what Teach by example does. Is that the fight spell in green that I was talking about? Biblioplex is decent. 4 mana 2/1 flyer, needs a little bit of help, and if you have a really good instant or sorcery, it's okay, but it's generally not super great. It is colorless, but not a huge priority. Wow, I kind of want to look up these uncommon legendary creatures. Yeah. It is a nice little combo, Magistratorian for sure. You can probably get this card late, though. Campus Guide. Enter the battlefield, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and put that card on top. It's a 2 mana 2/1, so it doesn't need that much help, and then being able to just fix your mana, so if you're playing 3 colors or splashing, definitely a reasonable card. And it's a May ability. Definitely a card that looks like it could be okay. Even though it's not card advantage, it could definitely work. He's the perfect history student, yeah. Cogwork Archivist. Reach, put a card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. I kind of like that. It works with some of the red themes, and it feels like maybe you could do some cool decking things, but very expensive and not that good. 1 mana 0/4 that can mill a card. That could be really sweet in some decks where there's like Cogwork Archivist plus Excavated Wall. You're just milling your own cards, and then you eventually like start putting your cards back on the bottom. It's very slow and clunky, so probably not great. Letter of Acceptance is great though. Add a mana of any color, so that's good for fixing. And then you can sack it to draw a card. These cards aren't really good, but this one's pretty sweet. I like it. Campus Guide can't fetch you the campus cards. Yeah. Oh well. Archway Commons. These are all commons. Wild. Tapped, enters it sapped, tapped unless you sacrifice it, you must pay 1. Add a mana of any color. These cards are generally like, they've been okay sometimes, but they're often very slow and not great. So I'm not a huge fan of this. Lorehold Campus. I love these campus cards, by the way. I've actually looked at these ones because I was just looking at some of the artwork for the set, so I wondered what the lands looked like. And the fact that your land enters tapped is not a major cost. It taps for both of the colors you need, and then scrying one is actually huge in the late game when you don't want to flood out. So, because every land is a dead card, so like it almost is like it's drawing you half a card because it's getting rid of the extra lands that you don't need. So I really like these cards. They go in the common slot and not in the land slot. Nice. I don't think you always want 1 Archway Commons in your deck. I think if you can get one of these lands, you'd much rather have that. These campuses are all great, and then the plains. Nice. Well, we all know what we have to do now. I mean, it's not even negotiable. We have to know what Quintorius looks like. Quintorius, Field Historian. This guy looks like Dumbo. Am I the only one who thinks this looks like Dumbo? Like, they literally just got Dumbo into the set. Spirits you control get +1/+0, so it's a 5 mana 2/4. Not great. Spirits you control get +1/+0. Could be good for, like, the, could be good for the spirits cards that we've seen. You actually laughed out loud. Did nobody compare this to Dumbo before? I mean, he's literally got, like, looks like he's wearing, like, goggles headband almost. He cares about spirits who are flying. Every life has a story to tell. I won't let them be forgotten. Whenever 1 or more... Okay, let's read this last part. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature. Oh my god! What? I was reading the card. I was like, okay, 5 mana 2/4. Okay, that's okay. Oh my goodness, this last ability is hype. Wow. And he's got like this Hamlet thing where he's like looking at the skull. That's such a sweet ability. So it creates a 4/2 every time something leaves the graveyard? That's awesome. Yeah, it does include when you exile them. And it's an uncommon. This is going to be a really fun one to build around. Does anyone know the name of the person that liked science and research in the set? The like blue-green legend? Oh man, Quintorius. I mean, I'm not planning on looking at all the uncommons today because I've already been looking at the commons for such a long time. But I did want to look at Quintorius because he feels like he's been the mascot of this entire vibe. Zimone. We'll look at Zimone as well, I guess. Zimone Quandrix Prodigy. Zimone just looks like an human science student. What are they complaining about? It's not like axiomatic leyline paratrigonometrics is hard. Land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Tapped. Kind of cool. It's only a 2 mana. And then draw a card if you control 8 or more lands, draw 2 cards instead. It's so cool. I like it. Science student. Quintorius, the historian. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do as part of this video is I am going to try and determine the top commons for each color. I'm going to go for the top 3 here, and we're going to just do our best. Okay, so in white, I'm going to go with Combat Professor at number 1 because I love this card. It looks great to me. Yeah, top gold commons too. Those are true. I guess it's hard to do just the monocolored ones because there's not as many of them. Like it's 1, 2, 5, 8, 11, 12. Yeah, I'm only going to do the top 2 commons for each color actually because there's only 12 of them. 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's only 12 commons, so doing a top 3 commons is kind of absurd to me when there's only 12 of them, because normally there's 20, so we're only going to do top 2 commons. Every teacher ever. Before Uvis was cut down at Parentical Peak, she performed which maneuver? Anyone from the reading? If this was one of my classes, this would be accompanied by, Nikolai, put your hand down. I'm asking for someone else to participate for once. That's kind of how it goes in my classes generally. Yeah, Quintorius is on Expel. I know that part. I think Expel might be number 2, actually. It's pretty, like, it's tough, but I think it might be Expel. It's just a removal spell. Pilgrim of the Ages could be good, but if it's only black-white, if white-red is a control deck, which it could be good there, I guess, and the 6 mana to return it from your graveyard is nice. But I think Expel is just nice removal, and people are going to have to attack. We didn't see a ton of Vigilance or Untap shenanigans, and people are going to have to attack you, and white-red looks like control. So I'm going to put Expel at number 2. These are just very initial takes, by the way, but we'll start there. We're only doing top 2 commons there. Quintorius Theme Tribal. We have to support Quintorius in all of his exploits. Okay, scrolling down to blue. I think this card could be decent. As white-red has shaped up to be more of a controlling color, this sort of card does get better when you are doing that sort of thing. The Spirit, exiling a card from your graveyard could be nice, but it is a 1-2, which isn't great. Study Break could be 3rd. Yeah, it depends on if you have a card to go get. Also, this card's not as good in your control decks, so I don't know. Eager First Year could be 3rd. Beaming Defiant. I mean, Ageless Guardian's honestly looking better and better. I don't know. Let's look at blue. I mean, obviously, Frost Trickster is number 1. That card's just great. And then Waterfall Airless is probably number 3. This card's probably up there. And then Burying Books is probably number 2. The card seems reasonable to me at the very least. This is a 3/1 flyer that's hard to kill, but 1 toughness. It's not that hard to interact with a lot of the time, potentially. Yeah, I think we're going to put Burying Books at number 2. So that's not that good of a card. I don't really want to put any of the learn cards because you want to have a good card first. I put Frostlings at number 1, don't worry. Frost Trickster, don't forget. The Burrog Befuddler is honestly pretty cool. I'm going to put Burying Books at number 2, though. I think I can imagine taking that pretty early. Especially if you're playing controlling blue deck. Burying Books. You like Subtraction, could be 3rd. Arcane Subtraction. Yeah, it's hard because you need to have creatures in play for that. I think Befuddler might be number 3, or the Waterfall could be number 3. This one's pretty easy. I think I'm going to put the Mage Hunter's Onslaught over Lash of Malice because the format does look relatively controlling. Befuddle was like a card that you would play, but it was not a top common, ever. I think it's these 2 cards are the best 2. I remember I was struggling to find a 3rd one anyway, but maybe this thing's number 3. But I think it's Mage Hunter's Onslaught's a little bit better because you just want to be able to kill anything, and this thing can't kill anything. And doesn't do well against pump spells and stuff. So we'll put Mage Hunter's Onslaught at number 1. Mage Hunter's Onslaught at number 1. And Lash of Malice at number 2. That would change if the format was more aggressive, but it looks relatively slow to me. If white is not super aggressive and red is not super aggressive, then it's probably not a super aggressive format overall. This is easily Heated Debate, and then probably Pigment Storm. I like Pigment Storm a lot. Heated Debate. I like Pigment Storm because it could be a finisher. I also like this like 2/1 a decent amount. I think it's pretty cool. Tome Shredder's a cute design. Twin Scroll Shaman didn't look as good, but it does work well with counters if it gets there on that. Number 3 might be the Speaker of the Fens or something. Though the 2-drop is nice. This one, I'm just going to go with Mage Duel and then Professor of Zoomancy. Just because Mage Duel is green interaction, which it doesn't always get. And then Zoomancy is just very efficient. 4/3 Spirit that pings. It doesn't ping creatures, it only pings players. So I don't love that. It's just a 4-drop that's pretty replaceable. It doesn't trade well in combat. It generally trades down. So green, I'm going to go with Mage Duel. Mage Duel. Oftentimes, Mage Duel would get knocked out of the top commons once you know more about the set. But I think the Bear is just really nice too. Professor of Zoomancy triggers the life gain stuff. If I had to pick a third one, I'd probably pick the Reckless Amplimancer just because 2-drops are important and limited. And then maybe the Groff. But let's just look at some of the hybrid cards. Let's rank these things maybe. There's different cycles. So there's the ones that are like 1 blue-red, 1 green-blue, white-red. There's a lot of green-blue ones. Ugh, there's so many different ones. It's hard to rank these ones because they're kind of diverse in their stuff. So maybe I just won't rank these. Yeah, I'm probably not going to end up being able to rank these. These are all kind of... The gold cards are only good in their color combination, but they're all seeming pretty reasonable a lot of the time. The hybrid cards, it's just hard to rank them on, like, because they're just like... They all just basically need a different grade. So I'll be putting them into my spreadsheet, and folks will be able to see that there. If they do want to see, like, the cards, like, graded against each other, it'll be in my Strixhaven card-by-card grade spreadsheet, which is a Patreon reward, I think. Best lessons. Let's see. Lessons. Okay. Lessons. Let's just search lesson. You can rank the best cards of each of the 5 archetypes. I don't really even know all of the stuff the archetypes are doing yet. I just looked at the cards for the first time. Lessons. Well, there's the lessons on page 1, but there's also lessons on page 2. I think the lessons are just... I think we'll just rank the token ones. This one's probably decent. I think that the best lesson is probably this 2/1 flyer. 3-mana 2/1 flyer is probably better than a 3-mana 3/2. There's the 3-mana 3/2, probably second place. Actually, probably the 2/1/1s pest things is probably second place, followed by this thing is third place. 5-mana 4/4 is probably next, and then this one's probably the worst one. I don't know. Yeah, they're all released. And then in these ones, I think that Introduction to Annihilation is probably the best here. You're probably going to want to cast this a lot. This card is probably not really where you want to be by the time you cast it, unless you're really looking to fix your mana. So probably Annihilation, Sciences, Anatomy, Prophecy. Maybe Prophecy's better than Anatomy. Thank you, MROMTG, for the subscription. I appreciate you sharing that Twitch Prime. I really appreciate the support. But yeah, this was a lot of fun looking at the cards. I'm glad that we had chat here to guide me through the lessons. Giveaway counters when they die. Which one's Anatomy? Oh, yeah. That could be a good little combo as well. But yeah, I could definitely see Environmental Sciences being a card that you play in your main deck when you need to fix. But you could also play it in the sideboard. It's just, yeah, a lot of the time you want this sort of effect on turn 2 or 1 rather than on turn like 6 when you cast your learn card. But I've looked at all the commons. I've looked at even 2 of the uncommons as a little bit of a bonus. It was Quintorius and then whatever the other card's name was. What was her name? Zimone. So pretty cool stuff. Nice little flight around campus. So there's some pretty powerful commons and stuff. And I liked how we kind of learned as we went along. We realized how the lessons worked, all that good stuff. So it was really nice to have Twitch chat kind of guiding and giving some themes. The flavor text in this set is some of the best I've ever seen, gotta be said. The flavor of the cards is awesome. I really like that as well, Gapio. That was just what I was saying. Pretty great. If you did make it all the way to the end of this video and you were watching on YouTube, remember to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment in the comment section down below. What was your favorite card that we saw today, that we discussed? Or maybe what's your favorite card that we didn't discuss? Because I'm going to be looking at those other cards, of course, as well as I get ready for preview season and content like my draft guide and things of that nature. It was a lot of fun exploring all of these cards, coming up with a little bit of a base list of the top commons and stuff. These are where we ended up as top 2 commons for each color: Combat Professor and Expel, Frost Trickster and Burying Books, Mage Hunter's Onslaught and Lash of Malice, Heated Debate and Pigment Storm, and then Mage Duel and Zoomancy. So this is obviously just my first impressions, and yeah, that's just my first take on those cards. But there's a lot of gold card synergies that's probably going to affect how the set gets drafted. And yeah, no Harry Potter references is kind of neat because it makes it feel more creative and original, which I like. So pretty neat. So I like the sets. It's looking really fun. I'm excited to draft it. It's probably going to be interesting because it's a guild set, essentially, where you have different color combinations that are supported, so you draft those sets a little bit differently overall. Obviously, we all love Quintorius. Quintorius is probably going to be the mascot of the stream at some point here along the line, similar to how that mantle was taken by Archipelagor in Ikoria. Quintorius is looking like he's going to be our kind of card in this set, but I'm excited to draft it and dive on in and get all these preview season content up for you. If you would like to see all of these cards in a more formulaic way, ranked on like a spreadsheet, check out the Patreon, because as a Patreon reward, there is a access to a card-by-card grade spreadsheet for the set. So I'm going to be filling that out, and you'll be able to see them on A through F scale, sorted by color, and it's with a couple of notes for some of the cards, so that sort of thing. Pretty good for if you enjoy that sort of thing. And it's over at the Patreon, patreon.com/NicolaiBolas. Also join the NicolaiBolas Discord server. It's free, and everyone is welcome to come and discuss the cards, talk about things. It's great to have you there. You can check out my articles, linked in the description down below, and check out the Twitch stream live at twitch.tv/NicolaiBolas. You can follow the Twitch stream so you get notified when these sorts of things happen, and check out all of the cool stuff live. You can also support my content directly via Twitch by subscribing, and if you have Twitch Prime or Amazon Prime, because Amazon owns Twitch, so you can link those two accounts, subscribe to my Twitch channel at no extra cost to yourself, because you already have Amazon Prime, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I'm pretty excited for this set. I hope you are too, and I will talk to you next time.